Shalom, everybody. Can you hear me and see me clearly? And do I have a scribe on deck? Can I get a brother to scribe for me? All right, Zechariah, you're going to scribe for me. All praise. Well, we are continuing our journey in Job, and we will be reading chapters 29 to chapter 32. All right. Job is having a conversation with his friends. If y'all haven't yet, I suggest y'all go watch Captain Shemaya's I Am Job video. His class, I Am Job, he did like a year or so ago. Watch that class. It'll give you a lot of clarity on what's going on in the book of Job. All right? So, Job chapter 29 and verse 1 says, Moreover, Job continued his parable and said, Oh, that I were as in months past, as in the days when God preserved me, when his candle shined upon my head, and when by his light I walked through darkness. As I was in the days of my youth, when the secret of God was upon my tabernacle, when the Almighty was yet with me, when my children were about me, when I washed my steps with butter, and the rock poured me out rivers of oil. Now remember it says in verse 1, Job continued his parable and said, a lot of what Job was talking about, not the entire book, but a lot of what Job was talking about is in parable form. And most of it is above my pay grade. So, verse 7, when I went out through the gate to the city, when I prepared my seat in the street, the young men saw me and hid themselves, and the aged arose and stood up. The princes refrained talking and laid their hand on their mouth. The nobles held their peace, and their tongue cleaved to the roof of their mouth. When the ear heard me, when it blessed me, when the eye saw me, it gave witness to me. Because I delivered the poor that had cried, and the fatherless, and him that had none to help him. The blessing of him that was ready to perish came upon me, and I caused the widow's heart to sing for joy. I put on righteousness, and it clothed me. My judgment was as a robe and a diadem. I was eyes to the blind, and feet was I to the lame. I was a father to the poor, and the cause which I knew not I searched out. I break the jaws of the wicked, and pluck the spoil out of his teeth. Then I said, I shall die in my nest, and I shall multiply my days as the sand. My root was spread out by the waters, and the dew lay all night upon my branch. My glory was fresh in me, and my bow was renewed in my hand. Unto me men gave ear, and waited and kept silence at my counsel. After my words, they spake not again, and my speech dropped upon them. And they waited for me as the rain, and they opened their mouth wide as for the latter rain. If I laughed on them, they believed it not, and the light of my countenance they cast not down. I chose out their way and sat chief, and dwelt as a king in the army, as one that comforteth the mourners. So this is a deep parable about Job. Chapter 30, verse 1. But now they that are younger than me, than I have me in derision, whose fathers I would have disdained to have set with the dogs of my flock. Now this I know goes into Esau. He said, but now they that are younger than I have me in derision, whose fathers I would have disdained to set with the dogs of my flock. Now, they're not even good enough to sit with our animals. Yea, whereto might the strength of their hands profit me, in whom did old age was perished? For want and famine they were solitary, fleeing into the wilderness in former time, desolate and waste. There's a class, I believe Deacon Ithon did, that's online. Or maybe it was Bishop, when they were talking, I believe it's the Irish or not Israelites class. They went into the history of how Esau was chased into the mountains and was eating lice out of the draws, and the draws was disintegrating on them. They nasty people. Verse 4. And this is what it was talking about, Job 30. Verse 4. Who cut up mallows by the bushes and juniper roots for their meat. They were driven forth from among men. They cried after them as after a thief, to dwell in the cliffs of the valleys, in the caves of the earth, and in the rocks. So Obadiah said, thou that dwelleth in the clefts of the rocks. Verse 7. And among the bushes they brayed, under the nettles they were gathered together. They were children of fools, yea, children of base men. They were viler than the earth. So everything that Esau was, they was the original cavemen. They was the ones dwelling in caves, cave dwellers, and all of that stuff. They were cave dwellers. They was the ones that was living in the clefts of the rocks, eating lice off of themselves, wearing their drawers till they disintegrated and all of that stuff, while we were actually ruling at that time. Verse 9 says, and now I am their song, yea, I am their byway. Because now those same base people who used to have us, when we used to be over them, we had them subject to us. Now we are the ones that are subject to them. They call us African Americans. They call us Negro. They call us Gentiles. They call us heathens, when they are really the actual heathens. Verse 10, they abhor me. They flee far from me, and spare not to spit in my face, because he had loosed my cord and afflicted me. They have also let loose the bridle before me. Upon my right hand rise the youth. They push away my feet, and they rise up against me, the ways of their destruction. They mar my path. They set forward my calamity. They have no helper. They came upon me as a wide breaking of waters. In the desolation they rolled themselves upon me. Terrors are turned upon me. They pursue my soul as the wind, and my welfare passeth away as a cloud. And now my soul is poured out upon me, and the days of my affliction have taken hold upon me. My bones are pierced in me in the night season, and my sinews take no rest. By the great force of my disease is my garment changed. It bindeth me about as a collar of my coat. He hath cast me into the mire, and I am become like dust and ashes. I cry unto thee, and thou doest not hear me. I stand up, and thou regardest me not. Thou art become cruel to me. With thy strong hand thou oppressest thyself against me. Thou liftest me up to the wind. Thou causest me to ride upon it, and dissolvest my substance. For I know that thou wilt bring me to death, and to the house appointed for all living. Howbeit, he will not stretch out his hand to the grave, though they cry in his destruction. Did I not weep for him that was in trouble? Was not my soul grieved for the poor? When I looked for good, then evil came unto me. And when I waited for light, there came darkness. My bowels boiled and rested not. The days of my affliction prevented me. I went mourning without the sun. I stood up and cried in the congregation. I am a brother to dragons and a companion to owls. My skin is black upon me. My bones are burned with heat. My heart also is turned to mourning, and my organs into the voice of them that weep. Chapter 31, verse 1. I made a covenant with mine eyes. Why then should I think upon a maid? For what portion of God is there from above? And what inheritance of the Almighty from on high? Is not destruction to the wicked, and the strange punishment to the workers of iniquity? Doth not he see my ways and count all my steps? If I have walked with vanity, or if any foot has hasted to deceit, let me be weighed in an even balance, that God may know mine integrity. Now this is the chapter where it's clear and obvious that Job is starting to justify himself, which is where he actually made his mistake. Verse 6 again. Let me be weighed in an even balance, that God may know mine integrity. If my step had turned out of the way, and mine heart was walked after mine eyes, and if any blot had cleaved to mine hands, then let me sow, let another eat, yea, let my offspring be rooted out. If my heart had been deceived by a woman, or if I had laid wait at my neighbor's door, then let my wife grind unto another, and let others bow down upon her. For this is an heinous crime. Yes, it is an iniquity to be punished by the judges. For it is a fire that consumeth to destruction, and would root out all mine increase. So Job is basically saying, if I committed adultery, let my wife commit adultery or back on me, which is a heinous crime. And it's a fire that consumes, because in Proverbs it tells you that those that commit adultery with another man's wife, they lack understanding. If I can find it real quick. I'll find it in a second. Because it goes along with what Job just said. Verse 12. It said, for it is a fire that consumeth to destruction, and would root out all mine increase. Oh, Proverbs 6 and 35. Let me go that real quick. Proverbs 6 and 35. Let me see. Matter of fact, we're going to start at 29. Verse 29. Proverbs chapter 6, verse 29 says, so he that goeth in to his neighbor's wife, whosoever toucheth her shall not be innocent. Men do not despise his thief if he steal to satisfy his soul when he is hungry. But if he be found, he shall restore sevenfold. He shall give all the substance of his house. But whoso committeth adultery with a woman lacketh understanding. He that doeth it destroyeth his own soul. A wound and dishonor shall he get, and his reproach shall not be wiped away. For jealousy is the rage of a man. Therefore he will not spare in the day of vengeance. He will not regard any ransom, neither will he rest content though thou givest many gifts. That's why Job was saying what he was saying. Back in Job 31, starting at verse 12, it said, for it is a fire that consumeth to destruction, and would root out all mine increase. The punishment of adultery is severe, and there's not much that we can do if a man finds that out. That's why a lot of men die nowadays sleeping with other men's wives. A lot of people are in jail behind a woman. Verse 13. If I did despise the cause of my manservant or my maidservant when they contended with me, what then shall I do when God riseth up? When he visited, what shall I answer him? Did not he that made me in the womb make him? And did not one fashion us in the womb? Verse 16. If I have withheld the poor from their desire, or have caused the eyes of the widow to fail, or have eaten my morsel myself alone, and the fatherless had not eaten thereof. For from my youth he was brought up with me, as with a father, and I have guided her from my mother's womb. If I have seen any perish for want of clothing, or any poor without covering, if his loins have not blessed me, and if he were not warmed with the fleece of my sheep, if I have lifted up my hand against the fatherless when I saw my help in the gate, then let mine arm fall short from my shoulder blade, and mine arm be broken from the bone. So basically Job is saying, if I never helped anybody before, or if I stretch, like, you stretch your arm out to somebody, you're like, oh, what you doing? He said, let my arm fall from the bone, from the shoulder. He's justifying himself. Basically, like, I help people, I do this, I do that. Verse 23, for destruction from God was a terror to me, and by reason of his highness I cannot endure. If I had made gold my hope, or if I had said to the fine gold, thou art my confidence. If I rejoiced because my work was great, and because mine hand had gotten much, if I beheld the sun when it shined, or the moon walking in brightness, and my heart had been secretly enticed, or my mouth had kissed my hand, this also were an iniquity to be punished by the judge. For I should have denied the God that is above. If I rejoiced at the destruction of him that hated me, or I lifted up myself when evil found him, neither have I suffered my mouth to sin by wishing a curse to his soul. If the men of my tabernacle said not, oh, that we had of his flesh, we cannot be satisfied. The stranger did not lodge in the street, but I opened my doors to the traveler. If I covered my transgression as Adam, by hiding my iniquity in my bosom. Did I fear a great multitude, or did the contempt of families terrify me, that I kept silence and went not out of the door? Oh, that one would hear me. Behold, my desire is that the Almighty would answer me, and that mine adversaries had written a book. Surely I would take it upon my shoulder and bind it as a crown to me. I would declare unto him the number of my steps. As a prince would I go near unto him. If my land cry against me, or that the furrows likewise thereof complain, if I have eaten fruits thereof without money, or have caused the owners to lose their life, let thistles grow instead of wheat, and the cockle instead of barley. The words of Job are ended. Now this is a young man, and in this chapter alone you learn a lot about how young men should be with men that are aged, especially wise men that are aged in this truth. A lot who teaches you how to be. Chapter 32, verse 1. So these men ceased to answer Job, because he was righteous in his own eyes. Then was kindled the wrath of Elihu, the son of Barachel, the Buzite, of the kindred of Ram. Against Job was his wrath kindled, because he justified himself rather than God. Also against his 3 friends was his wrath kindled, because they had found no answer, yet had condemned Job. Now Elihu had waited until Job had spoken, because they were elder than he. See that? Elihu waited until Job spoke, because he recognized who his elders were. He didn't talk out of turn. He didn't try to make himself equal to them. He sat back like a young man should, Let the older men discuss what they needed to discuss, and then he came afterwards once they was finished talking. Verse 5. When Elihu saw that there was no answer in the mouth of these three men, then was his wrath kindled. And Elihu, the son of Barachel the Buzite, answered and said, I am young, and ye are very old. Wherefore I was afraid, and durst not show you mine opinion. I said, they should speak, and multitude of years should teach wisdom. But there is a spirit in man, and the inspiration from the Almighty giveth him understanding. Great men are not always wise, neither do the aged understand judgment. Therefore I said, hearken unto me, I also will show mine opinion. So he was sitting back like, look, these men are older than me, they're much wiser than I am, let me just be quiet and just listen. But then once he saw that Job justified himself and those other men had nothing else to say about it, he had to say something. Verse 11. Behold, I waited for your words. I gave ear to your reasons, whilst you searched out what to say. Yea, I attended unto you, and behold, there was none of you that convinced Job, or that answered his words, lest ye should say, we have found out wisdom. God thrusteth him down, not man. Now he hath not directed his words against me, neither will I answer him with your speeches. They were amazed. They answered no more. They left off speaking. When I had waited, for they spake not, but stood still and answered no more, I said, I will answer also my part. I will also show mine opinion. For I am full of matter. The spirit within me constraineth me. Behold, my belly is as wine which hath no vent. It is ready to burst like new bottles. I will speak that I may be refreshed. I will open my lips to answer. Let me not, I pray you, accept any man's person, neither give flattering titles unto men. For I know not to give flattering titles. In so doing, my Maker would soon take me away. And that is the 4 chapters in Job today. As I said before, a lot of Job is a deep parable. Not all of it, but a lot of it is. There's a class by Captain Shemaiah called I Am Job, which he explains a good synopsis of what Job is about. If there are any other questions, I implore you to inbox the Iuic Classroom page, and the captains will get to your question in the order in which it was received. That'll be all for the 4 chapters of great reading. And with that, I say, shalom.